There it is. Yep, got it, good. So, learn, play, build, share. It is a message being spoken across the world over this weekend. But obviously, we're not there yet if we have to talk about it. Today, I'm going to talk about not only the importance of integrating global communities, but why they haven't been integrated completely. The greatest problem facing our generation is apathy, which is today, what I will argue, is the greatest obstacle in the path of playing, sharing, building, and learning. I want to open with a story. About 2,500 years ago, in 500 BC, in the provincial Indian town of Lumbini, a young boy was born to the Raja of the Shakya province. Now, this boy was born of great wealth. And the seer traveling with them prophesied that should he avoid age, seeing poverty, sickness, and death, he would grow up to be the greatest ruler that the world had ever seen. Otherwise, he'd become a great holy man. Now, naturally, his father wanting him to follow in his own footsteps, he sheltered him with lavish goods. You weren't allowed to enter his castle room if you hadn't been checked for a physical, if you didn't laugh at the king's jokes, if you weren't fed the proper food that day. Now, this went on for 29 years. The boy left his palace once. On his 29th birthday, his only request was to see his subjects. On that journey, he saw an old, wandering ascetic. Now, he asked his charioteer to stop. He said, "What is wrong with this man?" His charioteer, looking puzzled, given orders not to stop, but known that he had to follow the prince's orders, told the boy that this comes to all men. From there, the boy was curious, 29 years old, having been out of his palace once. He went out again, secretly. This time, he saw hunger. He asked the charioteer, "What is wrong with this boy?" He said, "This is hunger. This comes to all men." The next time he went out, he saw sickness. And once again, this happens to all men. Finally, he saw death. And the final answer was that this happens to all men. Now, he decided to radically change his lifestyle, to live the life of that ascetic he saw, to dedicate himself to the preponderance of the earth, to understanding these elements. A complete 180-degree swing from the life that he had lived before. He realized, much later, that this did no good either. Complete denial of earth brings you no greater pleasure than complete indulgence. So he did what any of us would normally do, and he took a nap under the lotus tree. Now, this man is Siddhartha Gautama, who many of us know as the Buddha. Now, the Buddha's story is applicable for many reasons. Besides his teachings, though, his life itself exemplifies the way that my generation and the generation of our fathers and grandfathers have lived. Generation Y compared to the baby boomer generation. As we can see here, the chart will tell us that the baby boomer generation was defined by working to live, by not spending time and balancing family life. While, on the other hand, my generation, which we call Generation Y, wants to know what's next. We multitask so that we can get the job done. Now, these are played out in the workforce statistics. It comes from the 2006 survey by the Census Bureau. As you can see, the baby boomers, 48 to 60 years old, make up the largest percent of the workforce and have the lowest percent unemployed. Well, two younger generations make up significantly smaller portion of the workforce and have higher unemployment rates already at such a young age. So, we see two binaries, as in the life of the Buddha. Workaholic, complete dedication to the earth. And then our generation, technology overload. So many riches, so many opportunities, so much technology that we don't know what to do. We simply let it fall by the wayside. Our generation has been defined by sensory adaptation. Sensory adaptation is the idea that there's so much overload to a certain stimulus that it stops recognizing it. For example, many of us here wearing jackets and sweaters, and by lunchtime, we forgot that we were even wearing them. This is our generation's relationship with technology. From every direction, a cell phone's ringing, a pager is buzzing if you work in the hospital field. Sometimes you forget to even answer your phone because you've gotten so many text messages. This brings us to the problem of apathy. When you have so much, you forget it's there. Apathy is most pervasive in the voting blocks. In fact, it's so pervasive that my generation created a party specifically telling you not to vote. The Apathy Party was created in 2008 with the idea of not encouraging people to vote, but getting them to register not to vote. You can see here from 1996 to the 2004 presidential elections, my age group has the least amount of voters. Now, this idea of apathy isn't pervasive only to the voting booths, but it's prevailing into education. Online education, while it has its place, for those able to enter the schools today they're not going. Online education is becoming more prevalent. As you can see here, as of 2009, 29% of all students are enrolled in one online course. Students aren't even willing to get off of their couch and interact. How can we share? How can we build if we're not willing to integrate? Now, most of you here today don't have the problem of apathy. If you were apathetic, you probably wouldn't be here in the first place. But the problem hits home in a recent news story. Many of us are familiar with the Penn State case. Several years of nobody stepping up because it was easier to say nothing. These are the children who are entering the workforce. These are the children scarred because not one individual took the hard way out, stood up, said, apathy is not my friend, and made a phone call. One person. So, where does this leave us? It leaves my generation with two choices. We succumb to the pitfalls of sensory adaptation, let the world continue to revolve around us. Or we answer the call. We take the technology. We are in a unique position to take the ideas of the generation that work to live and put them into practice because we have the tools. We could synthesize the information. So, the story of the Buddha doesn't end with his nap at the lotus tree. The Buddha woke up enlightened. Every community is a global community. Now, that means that the tools are at our fingertips. The prevailing question is, how do we wake up? That's a question that I can't answer. Why are integrating global communities important? Global communities exist everywhere. We've already integrated the communities. That's the paradox. Is that in this room alone, you could look around and see several different cultures, different backgrounds, different ideas. Now, Do we wake up? How do we wake up? It's a question you have to answer. The Buddha woke up enlightened, created his own middle path. That's what each of us have to do. We unroll our own highway in the desert. And if we don't, in the words of Plato, the price of apathy towards the public sector is to be ruled by evil men. This is the course we're on. Be ruled by those who rule for their own sakes. We have the power to check that. All we have to do is wake up. Thank you.